Right now, 48 nations are fighting for the World Cup. Billions of people are tuned in. Cities are effectively shutting down for match days, and the entire globe is focused on a single ball. But rewind to 1930 in Uruguay. FIFA had an idea to launch a brand new international tournament open to the world, and almost nobody wanted to show up. For European football powers like England, traveling to South America meant spending weeks at sea on a boat. The logistics were brutal, and most of the top nations simply refused to make the trip. The event was in such deep trouble that the host nation, Uruguay, had to personally pay for the travel costs of several visiting teams. They were literally handing out cash to bribe countries into filling out a 13-team bracket. There were no qualifying rounds, there were no global television broadcasts or massive marketing campaigns. Much of the footballing world completely ignored it. Hastily organized financial struggle that barely managed to field enough players. If you want to understand how chaotic the system really was, look at the match between Argentina and France. France was trailing 1-0. They threw everything forward, desperately trying to mount a late comeback. And then, a French player finally broke clean through the Argentine defense with a clear path to the net. But the ball never reached the goal, because the referee, a Brazilian official named Gilberto de Almeida Rego, blew the final whistle exactly 6 minutes early. Chaos broke out. Furious French players surrounded the referee, and the coaching staff stormed the touchline. The official historical records still don't completely agree on how the arguments were settled on the pitch, but the 1-0 result for Argentina remained permanent. That officiating failure established an early pattern. The World Cup was going to be defined by wild, unpredictable extremes. As the decades passed, the logistical problems faded, but the bizarre statistical anomalies only accelerated. Take the record for the fastest goal in tournament history. In 2002, Turkey's Hakan Şükür scored exactly 11 seconds after the starting whistle. Or look at the youngest player to ever take the pitch. Most fans guess Pelé, but the actual record belongs to Norman Whiteside of Northern Ireland, who debuted at 17 years and 41 days old. On the total opposite end of the spectrum is Egyptian goalkeeper Issam El Hadari, who currently holds 2 simultaneous records, the oldest player and the oldest team captain to ever play in a match. You'd expect the highest stakes matches to guarantee offensive fireworks, yet the 1994 final between powerhouses Brazil and Italy dragged through 120 minutes of extra time without a single goal scored by either side. Then you have Indonesia, competing under the name Dutch East Indies in 1938. Because of a strange bracket format, their entire World Cup history, their only appearance ever, consisted of a single brutal loss on one afternoon. The record books are full of these fragmented extremes. The tournament simply refuses to follow clean, logical narratives. So, how does a disorganized experiment that had to bribe 13 teams to play scale into a multi-billion-dollar empire? This chart tracks the competing nations from that 1930 origin, climbing to the 48-team roster playing today. As the bracket grew, stadium crowds exploded, recently shattering records with over 3.6 million fans passing through the gates in a single tournament. Going from paying players to board a boat in Uruguay to dictating the summer schedules of half the planet is an enormous structural achievement. When you look back at the early whistle in 1930, Şükür's 11-second strike, and the 1994 scoreless final, a single pattern emerges. These moments are legendary specifically because they were out of anyone's control. Football at this level is compelling because it is volatile. Every match rests on the razor-thin edge of an officiating error, a statistical fluke, or a 17-year-old's nerves. Billions of people don't tune in for a predictable, polished display of athletics. They tune in for the exact same chaotic unpredictability that nearly sank the tournament in its first year. What's the craziest, most unpredictable World Cup moment you've ever watched? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. From a tournament that had to bribe teams to show up to a global phenomenon that stops the world, the mess was never an obstacle. It was the attraction. Subscribe to ZingNova for more.